phones, Babylons can't crack the code.
In every college football offseason, there's always a group of players that have a lot of hype around their name, whether it is an award watch list, a potential first round pick kind of season, or someone that is expected to be a Heisman finalist or potentially win the Heisman itself. In today's video, however, I am going to be taking a look at 5 college football players going into the 2023 college football season that I believe are underrated and deserve more respect on their name. Before I move on, remember to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's get into it. The first player that I'm going to be talking about in today's video is Boise State quarterback Taylen Green. Taylen Green originally started the year off for Boise State as a backup quarterback to Hank Bachmeier in 2022. However, when Hank entered the transfer portal, it was officially time for Taylen Green to step up and be the starting quarterback for the Broncos, and he did not disappoint at all. In fact, people say he even exceeded the expectations that were laid upon him, as he stepped up to the plate, was very productive, and Boise State, they won a lot of games while he was a starter. In the 2022 college football season, Taylen Green completed 61% of his passes, threw for 2,042 yards, 14 touchdowns to the air compared to 6 interceptions, while also accounting for 586 rushing yards, averaging 7 yards a carry, and accounting for a total of 10 rushing touchdowns. Green was a redshirt freshman in the 2022 season, and was really his first time where he had a lot of action, of course being a starting quarterback for over half the season, and he had some really good games, and he was someone that was productive, consistent, and if you're a Boise State fan, you have to be looking forward to the future as Taylen Green being your longtime starting quarterback. On to the next player, it is USC wide receiver Brenden Rice. Brenden Rice in the 2022 transfer portal class was one of the more highly touted prospects, and people expected him to break out in 2022, and he did just that for USC, as he had his best collegiate career yet with 39 receptions for 611 receiving yards, averaging nearly 16 yards a reception, and 4 total touchdowns through the air. And his best game of the year came in the last one, in which it was the Cotton Bowl versus Tulane, in which he had 6 receptions for 174 yards, averaged 29 yards a reception, and 2 touchdowns in that one lone game. Now, I do believe Brenden Rice is kind of an underrated player heading into 2023. And with Jordan Addison no longer being a part of USC, and of course Caleb Williams being back as QB1, you have to think that Brenden Rice is bound to have the best year of his college football career. Of course, the room is competitive at USC for receivers, but I think he's going to live up to the opportunity, especially with what we saw versus Tulane. I think he can build off that and set himself up for a great 23 campaign. He's a big body receiver, standing in at 6'3", 200 pounds, and knows how to use his body and has great hands. Flipping things over to the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to be taking a look at safety from Kansas State, Kobe Savage. Kobe Savage had a big 22 campaign, and in my opinion was one of the better safeties in all of the Big 12 during 2022. He would miss the last few games of the season with an injury after the Baylor game. However, he did record 58 total tackles, 45 of which being solo, 3 tackles for loss, and 3 interceptions. Pretty much from the point when they played Tulane up to the point where he got injured, he was really on fire, having 7 tackles versus Tulane, 11 versus Oklahoma, 9 versus Texas Tech, 5 versus Iowa State, 6 versus TCU, 4 versus Oklahoma State, and 8 versus Texas. Overall, he had a big season, and I'm expecting him to build off all the momentum he had in 2022 and to solidify himself as potentially one of the better safeties in college football for 2023. Going back to the quarterback position, I have Western Kentucky quarterback Austin Reed. Austin Reed for 2022 was a D2 transfer to the FBS level to Western Kentucky, and he had a huge 22 campaign. As in 14 games played for the Hilltoppers, he completed nearly 65% of his passes, threw for 4,746 yards, 40 touchdowns to the air compared to 11 interceptions, while accounting for 224 rushing yards and a total of 8 rushing touchdowns. He had a big 22 campaign, and he actually originally entered the transfer portal at the end of the 22 season. However, he would come back to Western Kentucky, as he's still going to be a Hilltopper for 2023, and this was a move that actually surprised me, as I thought there was multiple teams out there that could have used his services, as I thought he proved himself pretty well in 2022, but maybe some people are still sleeping on him, or he really is a big, loyal quarterback. In regards to him and 2023, I think he's a very under-the-radar quarterback. Maybe not in the literal sense, because people do recognize his game because of the big season he had in 2022, but I feel like there's not enough respect on his name about him being one of the better quarterbacks in college football. I'm not saying he's the best one or going to be a Heisman finalist, but you need to put some respect on his name. Some people will say he's in a quarterback-friendly system at Western Kentucky, but you also got to realize that the quarterback has to put the ball in place for the playmakers to make the plays, and that's exactly what Austin Reed does. For the final player in today's video, it is defensive lineman from Michigan, Mason Graham. Mason Graham saw a lot of early action for the Wolverines in his freshman campaign in 2022, being a big player on their defensive line. A defensive line unit that was considered one of the better ones in all of college football for this past season. Mason Graham appeared in 14 games, where he recorded 27 total tackles, 14 of which being solo, 2.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, and 1 pass deflection, all as an interior defensive lineman. Mason Graham was one of the more highly touted prospects in the 22 class, even being a Max Preps All-American his senior year. And of course, you can pretty much put 2 and 2 together after having a great year as a freshman, being an immediate impact player for Michigan, and just showing people what he was really about. He was named as a freshman All-American for his play during the 2022 college football season. There's a lot of great D linemen on the collegiate level, spanning all the way from JUCO to the FBS D1 Power 5 ranks. But if you're going to be talking about one of the better ones in my opinion, and someone you should buy a lot of stock on right now, of course, bearing, injuries, I believe it is defensive lineman Mason Graham at Michigan. Well guys, if you made it this far in today's video, drop something down in the comment section below. Who do you think is an underrated player in 2023? And do you agree with all the players I brought up in today's video? Before you head out, remember to smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, and subscribe if you haven't already. B. Kelly out.